About a year ago, I was lucky enough to travel to Bordeaux, which is in southwestern France. So historically, most people probably know Bordeaux for their big-bodied, teeth-staining red wines, but they're also known for a very famous and notoriously finicky pastry, the cannelé, or the Canelés de Bordeaux. French people, don't dox me, I can't speak your language. I've been cooking for a while and I've heard stories of the famous cannelé, right? It's supposed to be tough to make, it's supposed to be, like I said, very finicky, so I had to try one. The first thing we did right off the bus was walk to a spot known for their cannelés, very famous in Bordeaux, and we got one. At first glance, these things look harmless. They're little cute custard thimbles, they're a little crusty and brown on the outside, very adorable. But when you take a bite of one of these things, it's an experience. The intensely brown crust sort of shatters on your teeth and gives way to this creamy but like semi-cakey custard interior. It's almost like fudge. The flavors of vanilla and rum bum rush your dopamine receptors, which leaves you satisfied, joyful, and confused all at the same time. The thing is, to make a proper cannelé, one must master timing, technique, and temperature, the 3 T's. I didn't think of that in the past, but it is the 3 T's. We're gonna call it the 3 T's. I like that a lot. These 3 things must align perfectly in order to make the perfect cannelé. Not to mention there are special molds necessary, you gotta coat them in a special way, there's a multi-day fermentation step, but we'll get into all of it. Real quick, though I made a few tweaks, this is not my recipe. Long story short, after trying a cannelé at that first spot, we walked over to this French patisserie spot called Labo and Gâteau. We went there to buy French copper cannelé molds. It's very important. These molds are very special. There's a whole load of reasons why people prefer them. So we go there and this shop is incredible. I mean, I could have spent hours there just walking around looking at all the different molds and little tools, and the French take their pastry very seriously. A lot of the stuff is kind of hard to come by here in the States, so I wanted to buy pretty much all of it, so I really had to practice self-control there, which isn't always easy for me, but I digress. As it turns out, the dude who was working the floor of the shop is an ex-pastry chef. Turns out he worked all over the city making cannelés, so the dude knew what he was talking about. One of the spots he worked at was called Cassonade or Cassonade here, and as it turns out, this was my favorite cannelé of the whole trip. We went to a few different spots, but this one was the best. The cream was like level 10, the custard was rich and fudgy with that crusty outside exterior. It was just like, it was transcendent. In the shop, this guy gave me a load of valuable insights and actually steered me away from buying the larger, more traditional cannelé molds into the more medium-sized one, which he says that he prefers and that make tastier cannelés. There's a whole load of other insights that he told me during my time in the shop, so in this video, we're gonna cover all that. I think we gotta start making the batter. Medium heat. We're gonna add in our whole milk, the first half of the caster sugar, and le beurre. All right, the beurre is nice and tempered, as you can see. We have this beautiful Madagascar vanilla bean pod here. This can be vanilla bean paste, this can be the liquid stuff, whatever you got. This is ideal because it's the most flavorful. They can be expensive. All right, we're just gonna split this down the middle. Boom. Take the back of my knife, scrape down the pod. Look at that beautiful, beautiful paste. It's Madagascar gold right there. We're gonna pop that in. And I'm also going to add in our vanilla bean pods because they still have flavor in them. We're just gonna whisk this all up until it hits 145 degrees Fahrenheit, which is generally right around the time that it takes for the butter to melt, which is pretty nice. All right, well that's coming to temperature. We're gonna add some all-purpose flour into le bowl, the other half of the caster sugar, and a wee pinch of kosher. I'm gonna dry whisk this because it's basically the exact same thing as sifting it. Make sure that the flour is nice and worked in with the sugar and the salt and that everything's broken up and makes a smooth batter. Then we're just gonna make a little hole in the center, then add in the egg yolks. Perfect. We're gonna take a third of this milk mixture, pop it right over the yolks, and whisk. Starting in the center and working our way towards the rim of the other flour to kind of slowly incorporate the flour, which ensures we have a smooth batter. Now we can add in all the rest while whisking. And as you can see, this is a very thin batter. Make sure you get all the flour on the side of the bowl, whisk it in. Then we're gonna add in our rum, which is gonna help cool the mixture down. And now we're just gonna strain things off. And this is just to ensure there's no scrambled egg in our batter here. I like to take out the pods and put them right back in. So now I'm gonna put the lid on, slightly ajar here, and we're gonna let this cool in the fridge for 1, preferably 2 days. I know, it's a lot of time, but it's extremely important for this batter. It's gonna 1, develop flavor, and 2, it's gonna help that gluten sort of activate, which is important for the kind of consistency we're going for on the inside of the custard, the inside of the cannelé. Into the icebox with thee. Oh my Lord. It seems that I have already made a batch 2 days ago. It's kind of cakey at the bottom because all that flour kind of settled at the bottom, but once you whisk it up, you have this beautiful, smooth, bubbleless batter here, and you can see all those speckles of vanilla bean and everything. This is exactly what we're going for. You would not achieve this consistency if you did not let it ferment in the fridge. Very, 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 very thin batter. Nappe. What give cannelé their unique shine is a mixture of 2 things, butter and beeswax. I know it sounds strange, but beeswax gives it a really nice aroma, and again, that perfect shine that we're going for. Classic recipes call for butter, which is of course European style butter. Over there, it's a higher fat content than American butter. Then you clarify that so you have only fat, no water. Butter is an emulsion of fat and water. Or you can go ahead and buy ghee, high quality ghee, which is already clarified for you, has a great flavor. I use it, it's fantastic. And for the beeswax, you can go ahead and buy yourself a brick like this. They come in pellets, just make sure it's food grade. Oh my God, the smell is incredible with this stuff. At La Bon Gato, the dude told me that they have a proprietary blend of oils that they use to coat their cannelé molds, but they're doing things on a commercial scale. I've seen people only use butter. I've seen people use like, not lard, shortening. But this mixture of beeswax and butter is, to me, this is a cannelé. All right, so we're just gonna slice some waxing tin off this brick. Le beeswax. All right, so we got some simmering water here. We're gonna make a little bain-marie by putting a bowl right on top. Make sure that the water doesn't touch the bowl. Then we're gonna add in our ghee or clarified butter and the beeswax. All right, once this is all melted, it's pretty much ready to use. So you can take it off or keep it on the heat while you wait. But if you take it off the heat, it might solidify on you while you're prepping your molds, no problem. You can either put it back on the bane and warm it up, or you can even throw it in your microwave and it'll totally just melt again. Since we're gonna use this and I don't want it to go cold, I'm gonna keep it right on this bane while we get going on our molds. Traditional French cannelé molds are made with copper, which is renowned for its ability to conduct heat evenly and consistently. I picked these up at the shop in Bordeaux, but you can totally buy these at a pastry store if you have one near you, or just get them online. Keep in mind, not all molds are created equal. You can get a sheet tray version, you can use silicone, but those versions won't really give you that outer crust that we're looking for, so copper is preferred. These molds do not come non-stick, so just like a cast iron, you need to season them. Matter of fact, seasoning these molds is exactly like seasoning your cast iron, right? I'll leave exact instructions on how to do this on the recipe page. Also, one more thing, do not wash these with soap and do not put them in the dishwasher. When they're seasoned, nothing should stick to them, so you can just wipe them out with a paper towel. I store mine wrapped in parchment paper in a plastic bag. So at the shop, the pastry chef told me a crucial tip for coating cannelé molds. Notice that I took these out of the oven. The molds should be warm before you fill them. Why? Because when they're room temperature or cold, the wax butter mixture cakes on too thick, and when that happens, the cannelés will not caramelize as deeply. The mixture can also pool up at the bottom, which is no bueno, and I'll show you exactly why a little later. So working quickly, pour that wax butter mixture, also called white oil, into each little cannelé tin, then flip them back over so everything drips out and you have the thinnest possible layer of the oil coating. Give them a minute or so, then flip them back over. You can barely tell there's anything in there. That's what we're going for. Then we're gonna take our batter out of the fridge, remove those vanilla bean pods, and whisk it up until it's smooth. That flour is gonna kind of sit at the bottom. We need to whisk that up. It should be consistent. The next tip the French pastry god taught me was to not overfill the molds. You wanna leave about 1/3 of an inch of room at the top. If you fill these all the way to the tippy, everything is going to souffle upwards, burn, and it's gonna leave you with a wonky cannelé. For uniform and even cannelés, fill them like this. Okay, so the baking process for cannelés is twofold. The first, shorter bake, is at a ripping hot high heat, which is going to give the outer crust a head start. You should notice some intense bubble action. The custard's going to kind of leopard and cook a little bit on the top. Then for the second, longer cook, we're going to lower the heat to set and cook the custard through. Don't worry if your canelés look super dark on the top while they're baking. The butt end cooks quicker because it's exposed to that hot air in the oven. Just trust the process. Things will be cooked evenly. The last tip that the dude taught me. Now, fresh from the oven, and I mean piping hot. Use oven gloves or a towel to pop the canelés right out of their molds immediately, right out the oven. If you let the canelés cool in the molds, they will not crisp up to form that signature outer shell. And this is actually just a good general baking tip. You can apply this same rule to dessert breads or cakes. If you want a softer crust, keep things in the tin or the mold while they cool. If you want something a little more hearty, then take them out of the tin and let them cool. Peep that shine that these things have going on. It looks like a mobster's gold tooth. And that's from the white oil, more specifically the beeswax in the white oil. It's gonna give our canelés that beautiful shine that you kind of expect when you eat one of these things. Fresh from the mold, your canelés are gonna be a little softer, but as they cool, they're gonna harden up. This is our final product here. Look at these little beautiful canelés. Of this batch, there's one ugly duckling. Can you tell me which one it is? That's this guy right here. Kind of obvious. The unsexy truth about canelés is that, sure, I can give you a recipe. I tweaked it so that it works perfectly for me. But the thing is that everybody's oven is different. Your eggs might be a little different. The point is, I can give you a starting point and you might nail it on the first try. Maybe you're a beast, maybe you're a god, I don't know. You probably are. But in reality, it's gonna take some trial and error, messing around with temperatures, messing around with time until you get the perfect cannelé, right? I'm sure even this could use work, but to me, this looks a lot like the canelés that I had in Bordeaux. This pale rim happened because I had a little bit too much wax that pooled at the bottom of the mold, which means that it kind of like steamed from the bottom and didn't get that caramelization and that beautiful kind of like signature caramely look that these canelés have. The good news, no matter what kind of cannelé you make, even if you mess them up, they're still gonna be edible and delicious. And just to kind of like show you guys, I made a test batch. I cooked this for 10 minutes at 480 instead of 15 minutes. And you can even just see from that extra 5 minutes at that super ripping hot heat, look at the difference in color of those two. This is the one that we just made. This is the one that just had 5 minutes less cook time at the beginning. Still tasty, still a beautiful color. That's what we're going for, the darker John. Beautiful. I think we gotta cut into one, see how we did. Oh! Listen to that, that is that crust that we want. Beautiful. Take a closer look here. Again, that crust that we need for a cannelé. We want that textural variation in there. This is the creamiest, most like moist, almost like fudgy cake, if you will. It's not a custard in the traditional sense. Clearly it's cooked. You could, but look at those bubbles in there. That opened up really nice. And I don't know if you could tell when I touch it like that, it's just so delicate. And then this is so like rigid. What's the sound you want to hear? It's taking me back. You gotta serve these with a cafe. Burn your face off. I think I'm gonna be blasphemous right now. Everyone in France is gonna hate me, but I'm gonna do it. Oh. I think we might have just unlocked something here together. That's good. It like softens it a little bit, but it's still super crunchy, you can hear it. Look at that. Custard fudge. These things are so simple and they're kind of a pain in the ass to make, but they're so good. This is one of those like examples of like simplicity is key. You don't have to do too much to make a really good pastry. We made a quick, easy batter, and then all we did was pop it in a mold, put it in the oven. Of course, there's a million steps in between. At its core, it's not complicated. People say cannelés are extremely difficult, but I say they're more finicky than difficult. First, you got the tins, right? The molds. Not super easy to come by, a little expensive. You have to season them, you have to treat them properly. But once you figure it out, it's not that hard. Then you got the white oil, right? The clarified butter and the beeswax. It's just kind of a mess. It's tough to kind of wash off your different dishes. It gets in your sponge. It kind of gets in your hair. It gets in your life. It gets in your relationships before you know it. Your mom's calling you crying, honey, why is there wax all over my kitchen? but once you get past that, not that hard. Then you have to take said white oil and coat the mold perfectly. Otherwise, they're not gonna color properly. You might get that pale ring on the top. Maybe they don't caramelize as well. You gotta lock in on that. And then of course there's the oven heat, but that's simply fixed with trial and error, which can be annoying, I'm sure, but think of it more of a cooking project. You're not gonna probably nail it the first time, but once you dial it in, it's gonna be satisfying and the taste is amazing. And even when you make a bad one, it's still gonna taste good. Canelés de Bordeaux. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like it, give it a like ski for me, helps the channel out. If you're new to the Chanski, consider subscribing to the Chanski. The best way to support us is over on the Patreon, aka the grocery fund. It helps us crisp the cannelé, cut the cannelé, muck the cannelé. But if you can't financially support, no worries too. Come say what up on Discord. We're cooling, we're chatting, talking about everything from our travels to friendship to I got nothing. But come say what up, come introduce yourself. It's a fun little community we got over there. If you like this video, I have some other ideas from other amazing dishes that I had on my travels, so let us know in the comments sort of like what's going on, if you like the vibe or not. Feedback is appreciated. That's all I got for you for today, so until next time, au revoir.